Alright guys, this is Vaul, and we're covering a game of Terran vs Terran in StarCraft 2 the beta. Now, last commentary I did say to you guys that I would, in my following commentary, give you a game that didn't feature two noob players who really suck. I'd give you a really exciting game. Now, that's only partly true. I've decided to do another game featuring myself, so unfortunately haven't kept my promise there. But it is Lost Temple, it is Terran vs Terran. I'm the blue Terran at the 6 o'clock, 6:30 position, and my opponent is there at the 8:30 position. It's Lost Temple, so very similar to the classic Lost Temple that you guys are familiar with in the original StarCraft, Brood War, and Warcraft 3. Blizzard love this map, so do many of its fans. And as you can see here, I've gone for a 14cc, meaning that you've skipped your first barracks and gone for a very risky command center. Now, my opponent has scouted me last, so very lucky there, and as you can see, the game, the replay is in triple speed at the moment, just because I like doing that for my StarCraft 2 commentaries. The game is pretty boring a lot of the time, so just got to speed it up so you can get into the action. But I've slowed it down now so you can actually see the game played right now at its current pace. And my opponent moving in with his SCV, seeing that I've already got my bunker up, got everything going, and my economy is ahead of his, so that gamble has paid off. So he's actually going to have to do something to counter that. He's gone heavy gas build. He's gone for 2 quick refineries. He's got the factory, so he's now building a command center before anything else goes ahead, just so that he can try and catch up. So I've got a distinct advantage by doing that. So we'll find out how things pan out. Now, Terran vs Terran, for me so far, has always seemed to be about infantry. You build marauders and marines and dropships, just because that sort of attack can easily bust through the choke point or through an expansion really quickly if you've got more stim pack, more marines, more upgrades than your opponent does. Also recently I played against a guy who used ghosts, which didn't really occur to me, but ghosts actually have massive damage against infantry now. Any sort of biological unit they just crush, and they have that really cool sniping ability. Of course, they can cast EMP in matchups involving Protoss, and the nukes actually launch a bit quicker now, so yet another reason why ghosts are useful. So I've started to incorporate ghosts into my strategy a lot more often now, so that's something I'll be going for. My opponent appears to be going for tanks, or something from his factory there. So I've got my barracks out, I've got a single tech lab and a reactor. Usually the way I start out is to get 2 barracks, 1 with each type of add-on, so I can really pump a lot of marines and marauders to back them up. Opponent there is going for tanks. I don't really rate tanks that much in TvT, just because they're a bit slow and unwieldy, and if you've got medivac dropships and a lot of marines, you can easily just fly into his main and do a lot of damage, and then pick you guys up again if the tanks come in range. So for that reason, I've mainly gone for infantry in my plan here. But there is a reason why you may want to get tanks, just because Thors are quite useful in the late game, and general armory units, sort of tank units, factory units, can be very powerful once you've massed them. Just having a look through the production total here, I've actually got more workers and harvesters than he does, so still slightly ahead on economy. My expansion's been up for a lot longer, so I've been able to invest in more upgrades, really just playing a tech it up game, and really gathering the resources. Sorry about the lack of action, guys, but as you can see, this replay goes on for a while, so we'll be showing you an exciting game a bit later. Getting plenty of mules up and running. I've decided not to get the fortress, the planetary fortress for this game. You can also see my opponent's got sieged up tanks. He's building a perimeter of turrets here around his base and supply depots, just so that he can see in advance if I'm heading in with dropships. He's comsetting my base as well. Quick bit of background, my opponent for this game is obviously just a guy that I've run into on the ladder, a complete stranger, but his name is Bonjwa. Now that is a Korean word which roughly translates to something like champion. What it actually means is it refers to a person or individual who has won a tournament or continued to win tournaments and is the favorite, is the top player. So I mean, you would refer to somebody like Savior in 2006 as a Bonjwa, or Boxer back in the day would be the Bonjwa of StarCraft. Currently that Bonjwa might be either Jaedong or Flash in StarCraft 1 Brood War. So this guy, either he's a Korean and he just likes the idea of Bonjwa, so he's just paid reverence to that concept with his background name, or maybe he is a Bonjwa and I'm really in for a tough time by having to play this guy, but we'll soon find out. Building an engineering bay here, the purpose of that is to get the upgrades going on my marines. I've also built a ghost academy, so I can actually start pumping out a couple of ghosts. Now at this point I'm completely in the dark about his build. I don't actually know at this point. He's completely skipping infantry and going, well, apart from those 2 guys there, and going for complete factory units. So my ghosts aren't really going to be that useful against his tanks and Helions if he gets any. but I could be able to launch some nukes later on, so that Ghost will still come in handy. I'd always recommend trying out Ghosts if you guys have the beta and you haven't really tried them out in serious games yet. Give them a good go because they're very useful. Cloaking is obviously going to be useful too. My opponent has been scanning around a lot, and obviously if you're not scanning, you're using Mule, so usually you don't save up a lot of energy on your orbital command. So if there are Ghosts out in the field, you may get some free invisibility scouting there off. I've actually built a reactor on my starport, so is my opponent there. That's so that you can build 2 medivacs at a time, or 2 Vikings at a time from your starport. It prevents you from building Ravens and Banshees and Battlecruisers and so forth, but that's alright. He's now got 2 factories, and one of them has a reactor on it as well, so that's allowing him to build Helions from 2 different build queues at a time. That'll be useful. I've got some medivacs up now, and still this game hasn't really got underway in terms of fights. We're both camping, we're both teching, both macroing, so when the game really does get underway, it's going to be pretty intense, and we get to see some really cool tier 3 action from the TvT, and that's why I've decided to commentate on this particular game. It's because I haven't really seen a lot of TvTs which go to late game. Most of my TvTs are pure sort of one fight and then the winner of that fight wins, unfortunately. Recently on some of the more smaller maps, I've been trying out a strategy where I just simply build 3 barracks, each barrack upgraded with a tech lab. I just get enough gas for 150 for those 3 reactors. Sorry, I meant reactors, not tech labs. And then I just build 6 Marines at a time and build up about 24 Marines and attack. And if I can't get to the choke point, I just attack like any sort of back entrance they may have, maybe rake some rocks down and attack through the other side of their base and just win like that. And my opponents just weren't stopping me. I was just killing people every time I tried that strategy, until one guy managed to stop me by building Ghosts and Helions. And against, even though he had a few of them, against my 20 or so Marines, he just shot them all to bits, which was amazing. So I decided not to carry on doing that strategy, but I wanted to do that strategy until it lost to find out how to actually beat it, because some really dumb strategies seem to be able to do pretty well in StarCraft 2 until you understand the game well enough to see that they are not actually viable. So that's satisfying. You wouldn't really want to be playing a game where very easy and silly strats work. Now, we've got a piece of action here, finally. We've got Vikings at the back of my base, which have been ushered away once I brought the tanks back. But that's allowed him to see sort of what I'm up to a little bit, and allows me to see that he's invested in some Vikings. Not too worried about that. I am now moving out with a big infantry army. I've got combat shields, I've got Stimpak, I've got heaps of dropships, I've got marauders. So I'm thinking that I've got an advantage against most armies that he's got, but he's built heaps of tanks. Now this is more tanks than I've ever seen in a game, and as you can see, my scan goes off at exactly the right time to see him going out the front with the tanks there, so I know what I'm up against. Now my Marine army, funnily enough, will actually beat his tank army unless they are sieged up in advance and I just run straight into that siege. Even so, the healing will work out quite well. So let's just see how this goes. I've built an expansion over here at the 3 o'clock, so if he doesn't attack me or if I win this next fight, I'll easily have won the game, so that's quite encouraging. Just having a look around now to find out whether he's got some expansions, so if I can take them down. I see that he hasn't taken this destructible rock expansion with the high yield minerals at the 10 o'clock position. So that's comforting. I'm now adding barracks because I need to spend my minerals. I know that I'm just going to be swamped with a huge influx of minerals before long, like I am every game, because my macro sucks. So that's just preparing me to try and actually get rid of some of that mineral count when it adds up. Now he's got a great defensive position there, and he is harassing with his Vikings. I have got some troops nearby to try and deal with this. In fact, some of the Marines, which have just freshly been produced, moving over there in advance, stimming up, just moving in to make sure the Vikings don't land and kill any of my SCVs. Managed to take out one of them and seriously injuring one other of them. They are now moving around, so they might run into my commander center there, so that could be annoying if he does land it. So thinking about changing that to a planetary fortress when the time comes. Looks like he's got a comp set off on me there, so I can see what he's up against. And sieging out the tanks just to prevent him from moving out. And this gives me a nice choke here. If he moves out with his tanks, I can stim up, charge in, and get my Marines into close range with his tanks before they siege up, allowing me to do some very heavy damage very quickly with all those Marines. Serious amount of firepower available to me if that happens. Just have to time it right, because if the tanks siege up too quickly and I rush in, things will be very bad. So launching a nuke here with my cloaked Ghost, hopefully it comes down in time, because it's quite a quick launch, and he should be able to pull back though. There he goes, he's pulled back, so just looking for the nuke. It's already left the side.